And you can check with Keith and see where it is. Of course, we don't really need him to the closed meeting, so it's okay if he's there. Yeah, I have a closed meeting. Yeah. I said, with what we have going on here, I think that if he's this late, it's not a big deal.
No, if it doesn't show up, it's gonna be a pain.
Oh, I think it is. We need to put a closed meeting. That is from Ron, that's his, analysis, and that does not include boring under the holiday. Okay, so it's 6 o'clock, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order, and you are gonna be hearing from Kathy, Crystal. Okay,
I know, I already know,
you already know.
I know. I looked and was waiting. Okay.
I started, I tried.
Oh, no.
I tried. I tried. You know what it is, it's not her fault, it's all mine. Okay, so I'm calling the meeting to order, and it is, today is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025, it is 6 p.m. And this is the regular meeting of the Virgin Town Council. So let's stand and say the pledge of allegiance first. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Declaration of conflicts of interest. I will start with Valerie this time. I always start the other way. You do? I do. This time I started the opposite. I have no problem. Neither do I. This is Jean and I have no conflicts. Paul?
No conflict.
April? No. Okay, so now here we get to the point where I told Crystal I'd get this done, and I did not. And I have not looked at the minutes. I started looking at them today, I started making some changes, and then got way into a meeting. And so I did not finish the minutes.
I had not had a chance to look at them either, so
Okay.
that works for me.
Okay,
So I move that we, table our consent agenda of the minutes until the next meeting.
okay, I second, or? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, okay. Checks and invoices, have you guys had a chance to look, the financials were online, did you have any questions?
No questions.
Darlene, I can tell you when it comes to the reports, Gene is not here last month. He told me he would not be here June or July, and I excused him for both the June and July meetings. And then for the planning commission share report from Darlene, she did send us a summary that I have not looked at yet. I believe, is it on SharePoint?
It was email.
It was just an email to all of us?
Yes.
Okay. I knew I had something.
I did look at it, it's pretty much the same summary she went over at the work meeting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so it's nothing new?
no, it's not really,
A little bit more detail.
yeah, a little bit more detailed, but
But otherwise, the
There
essence
wasn't
is the
anything
same.
surprises, no surprises.
Okay, all right, then, I'm not going to discuss the report from her since we've already had the report at the meeting on Wednesday. Okay, that gets us to open forum. So I told you I wanted to move fast for this. Hey, Cindy Escaday, what do you have to tell us?
Well, I want to chat a little bit for those who may not know, my husband and I live in Desert Gardens. Back in June, we had two issues that to me were violations of various codes we have in town. So first I talked with Darlene Pope, our neighborhood contact, and then after I told Jean, the mayor, to discuss my issues. And basically at that time, we talked about what they are, the specific issues aren't why I'm talking today.
Oh, okay,
The issue has to do with, Jean explained to me that he just installed some software in the town site, which would give residents a chance to log potential complaints or infractions, if you will. So she asked me if I would be willing, Jose and I would be willing to try it out, see how it worked. So we did do that. We submitted an application, they're called, from the software for each situation on June the 8th. Within about a week, there was a response back that one of them was resolved. The second issue, again, that was submitted on June the 8th, we got an email saying June the 9th, we received your application. And since that time, the only update we received is being reviewed. 6 weeks later, there's no update, no nothing. I have a real issue with that it takes so long for someone to get back and communicate what's going on.
I have a question before you go.
Yes,
So you said the first issue was resolved?
yes.
Okay, go ahead, go on.
And also, Jean asked us to get back with her with feedback, how the software works, which I did do, we talked on June 24th. And some of the concerns about the software, one of them, my concern being there's no way to communicate who you're working with. Just goes kind of into a hole, if you will, and you don't know who's working on the project or who to communicate. So I could call up in the building and say, hey, what's the status of this? What's going on? And so I think that's, Jean and I talked about the specifics, and that's not really what I want to talk about as much as just the general idea. If we're gonna have software to do this, to communicate with the employees of the town and the various staff, that it needs to be a two-way street. And so anyway, I just want to point it out that 6 weeks later, it's still sitting there and nothing has been done from my perspective. So again, we can get into the issues of the complaint, but that's not really why I wanted to chat. I feel that it could be very good, but right now there's some pieces really not there.
Thank you, Cindy, I appreciate the feedback.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay, Tom.
My name is Tom Lacoste, and 11 months ago today, I made a presentation to you guys, and it basically was for my duplex plan. The intent was to, and it was met with very positive response. The result of that was an ordinance request from the town council that would allow for a two-family dwelling or a duplex in commercial, in a long-term rental, very important, and a permitted use in commercial. That was it, very simple, very straightforward. That was 11 months ago. The key thing to it was the with conditions, and the with conditions was very simple, that it stayed as a long-term rental in perpetuity. It does not change with ownership of the land. That was it. And it was pretty much perceived as a pretty straightforward, simple thing. In fact, Jean, way back when it was first discussed with Jean Verratti and you, he came down for a meeting with you and he said, the mayor wants teeth in it. He said, it shouldn't be much. The attorney can do it like that in a heartbeat. Same comment from Paul when he made the ordinance submitted. He said, it shouldn't be a tough thing. We can do it real quickly. The thing meaning the restrictions that make sure that the conditions apply. What the conditions are very specific. This was a great initiative and it went beyond my duplex proposal. You guys were so excited about it that you said, let's take a minute, create an ordinance that opens the door and creates a pathway for affordable housing in other areas, in commercial areas. I was real happy with that, waiting patiently, but very excited about it. Felt good that you guys took the initiative to take my duplex project and expand it to better housing, for other housing that's needed. So imagine my surprise last week when I was at home, my ears were ringing.
Because what I said.
No, that's a totally different. Yours, I felt bad for you because you got caught by surprise and you didn't have to, but that's a different issue.
Okay.
No, imagine my surprise when last week, when Darlene Pope said the following, when asked about what's the status of the ordinance, you guys were talking back and forth, if there was a question that came, what's the status of it? And I quote, "We are discussing several that allow Mr. Lacoste options, none of which he seems to be amenable to." That could not be farther from the truth. To put it mildly, I have no idea what that means, but to portray me as the person who's holding things up, is a misnomer, okay? And I would ask that, she support that with facts or just take it back, that's simple. But the key thing is, it gave me an opportunity to tell you, basically give you an update of what's going on planning and zoning. They now have 2 draft ordinances. One has been going on for forever, quite honestly. And the other one has recently been put on the table by Cameron Spindler. One is very brief, to the point, and it looks viable, quite honestly. That came on a week or 2 ago from Cameron. It was requested that he put that on by the chair. There's so much debate going on the other one, that they basically said, would you like to write an alternate ordinance? And he said, yes, caught somebody by surprise, but he did do it, it's on there right now. The 2 ordinances, I said, one is a 1 page, I gotta be frank, and I'm gonna keep this under 3, I'm sorry, I'm already going over
I
it.
was gonna say, you're already going over. Go
But,
ahead.
yeah, I know, that's because anyway,
Okay,
I apologize for that, but, okay, real quickly, there are 2 ordinances. One of them, quite honestly, is a convoluted mess, I'm not saying anything personal, it's tied to other ordinances, and it has agenda items on it. I'll write that, I'll follow up with a letter explaining exactly what that is. It has turned into something very complex. The other one appears to be very simple and possibly viable, okay? My question is, basically, what can be done with a time limit on this? Right now, they're in a hold pattern. They're getting nowhere fast, and with this new ordinance, and if you look at the agendas, it's not a priority. There are other priorities that are put on the agendas, planning and zoning. So my question to you is, can anything be done? Because you're not going to see 2 ordinances given to you. They're not, I can't imagine planning and zoning says, here's option A and here's option B. But my request to you is there some time limitation or something that can be done to get it off the dime, okay? That's my request, okay? I have to say very strongly that when I talk about planning and zoning and being held up, I'm only talking about 2 people of the 5 that are basically, one is the chair, nothing negative, but the author, which is the chair pro tem. The other 3, have to make a point to say, the other 3 are really listening and asking questions and doing great things. But I need to clarify, when I say planning and zoning, I'm not talking about all 5 people. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And thank you for talking fast.
Pardon me?
Thank you for talking fast.
Well,
I
I spent all day getting this done in 2 minutes, and I ended up spending 5 minutes. I gotta go back to school.
Okay, so Darlene, we had already moved on past the, reports. And we discussed the fact that your report that you sent us for planning and zoning was really kind of a recap of what we already discussed at the meeting on Wednesday. Is there anything you feel you should add beyond what we talked about on Wednesday? Quickly. We're having a closed meeting here in 45 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, just anything additional beyond what we talked about on Wednesday?
You did not talk about 2 items.
Okay.
On Wednesday.
Okay.
And those 2 will be up for discussion tomorrow.
Okay,
And one is, it says which ones. Exactly. And or the one on the parking. Okay, and the one, that we had not talked about before about uses not listed as conditional or permitted. There's one that you talked about
For
that
the
we did
RC.
not vote on. There's one that you talked about.
Yes,
That we did not vote on. We
and
did
I was
not-
thinking it was the parking.
No.
No?
That's not parking. All right, so I wanted to, and I clarified that with Crystal as well. I encourage you, and I put the timestamp in the document of where,
Oh,
I would highly recommend you view the comments for the sensitive land overlay. We will not be discussing that because Larry will not be physically present tomorrow. Everybody in the audience knows that. I explained that to them. Okay, and if there's any time for me to respond to the allegations that were made against me, I would enjoy that.
okay, let us see what we do with these ordinances, and if there's time, we'll do it. Okay? They can't. Will continue. All right, council comments? Does anybody have any comments to, that you want to make? Paul, any comments?
Just a couple comments. It's too bad Cindy just left because I was gonna say, that you at least raised a good issue because you're the mayor and you're responsible for the staff to ensure her concerns are taken care of. And she's not here to hear that, but at least I'm glad she raised it. And to thank her for her participation. Then with Tom's comments, I know the issues have taken time, but when you look at what the planning commission has on their table, it is a lot, especially when you're talking about dealing with the general plan. Although I didn't see, Darlene, I think at last meeting you said there are 3 ordinances related to Tom's duplex, or is it just 2? So I didn't see any on the report, just the 2 we mentioned. Okay. So at some point that'll be coming, one of them will be coming here, I'll take it. Go ahead. What's the status of that, so we know?
I currently only have one ordinance in ordinance form, and that is the one, sponsored by, Ms. Nicole.
Yeah, you're waiting for Cameron to put that
Karen
in
has
order.
not submitted one in the proper ordinance form.
Then my third comment would be, I'm not gonna thank everybody by name that worked at, 4th of July. Because I'll miss somebody that, because I don't have the sheet in front of me, I would miss their name and feel bad. But the 2 I'm gonna do mention, the 2 that were kind of organizing it and making sure everybody's on task. Stacy Croft and Darcy Spenlow, they did just a phenomenal job, and we can't say enough good things about what they did and how hard they worked. To a point that, I know Stacy was putting up on a ladder by herself, putting up. Bill came and helped, Bill Swenson came by and helped, which is good, but I mean, they were doing everything out there that needed to be done, and boy, I sure appreciate it, and it was a good turnout, and it was a good 4th of July Independence Day. So, thank you, Darcy, thank you, Stacy, and thank you for all the individuals that participated to help out.
Okay, and all I will say is that, I was at a meeting today with Sunrise Engineering, and Bob was there too. And so was Rod Mills, and we went over all of the projects that we have going on with Sunrise. Turns out there's 6 of them. And, we got updates on everything, and, I will not go into the detail of all 6 projects. I will talk to the town council members later, individually later, to let you know on some of the projects where we are. But anyway, that's what I did today that was quite in line. I have no comment. All right. That's it. Okay, so we will get on to the 5 ordinances that we have on here for a vote. Now, the first one, I think we should, after my conversation with you earlier today, Paul, or yesterday, whichever, whatever it was. I'm going to put that one off until until the closed meeting. Until after we have our closed meeting. Where's the rest of the ordinance? Oh, here it is. I need that agenda. Here it is. So we're gonna have a closed meeting and then we'll come back into the open meeting, and at that time we will address the item number 1, which is rezoning that property on that property for rural residential to commercial. That's the one on the town, on the highway.
Yeah.
I figured there's no point in talking about it right now.
Makes sense.
Okay. Figured you would read. Okay, so we're going to get on to ordinance number 10. And so ordinance number 10 is the reinstatement of open space. And on that one, I did what you recommended in the closed meeting, that we change it from 40 acres to 10. So I went ahead and changed from 40 acres to 4812. I went ahead and changed from, well, I renumbered also. 4812 minimum area, I changed that from 40 to 10. You'll see that on page 2 of the ordinance, page 3. And then he had also said that he wanted us to send this ordinance back. We could go ahead and adopt tonight and send it to planning commission with a, asking them to specify prohibited uses, because all we had so far were permitted and conditional. And so what I did as I redrafted, reformatted the ordinance, I went ahead and put in a slot for prohibited uses and renumbered the other 2 below at 40, because 4812 was 4810 and 4814 was 4812. So I put in a slot for prohibited uses, moved the other 2 down with the number. And so, wow, that didn't come out quite right, the way it printed. So that's the changes I made based on what we discussed at the work meeting on Wednesday. Any discussion, anybody?
So I noticed one other thing that happened in the text is that where there would be a TI, there, it's turned into a 6.
Yeah,
Where?
Where?
So 4802 under purpose.
Okay, so connectivity, okay, I missed those 2 when I was reviewing it.
Like vegetation.
And
vegetation.
Contribution. Wait, where? I
Okay,
don't see
so
vegetation. I
line
don't
3
see-
on the very end, to the very right. Line 3.
Last word on line 3. Okay. That's because I was copying and pasting from a PDF into this, and it took all the TIs and turned them into 6s.
Yeah.
And that's what those are. Oh, I thought I had fixed all of this. What, can you give me a bad time? Yes, but I can do it quick, all that.
It's called proofreading and I make the same error all the time.
I sure thought I caught all those
I
TIs.
made the same.
You know how many times I spent doing TIs?
Mayor, it's also twice in 4804. Adoption and properties.
And administration.
It's
interesting
you can still read it. Other, like 6 or 7 places throughout.
Also,
Yep.
numbering should be 16.4802, 16.48.04, 16.48.
Okay.
Title number.
Suggest, let me go back, oh, yes. Okay. In front of every number should have 16.
16 point,
Okay.
chapter, right here.
Where else did you guys say that was the TI that was messed up?
So. Under purpose, like there, I believe there's, one,
I see 3 in purpose.
there's four, there's 4, 5 in that, I think.
Wait, oh, there it is. Okay, yes, there's 4.
And then under location,
I
there
see
was
1. Oh, 2,
administration
there's
on the
3.
first line, 2,
And
adoption on
3.
the second
Yep,
line,
okay.
Four,
and properties on the third one.
Okay, so there's 3, okay.
you know, four.
No, that's right, the designation.
Oh, okay. That's it.
And then there's another, under the whereas, 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas.
Yeah, there's
The
that.
first line, Virgin T.
Yes, I caught that. I fixed this other thing about land use authority also. Okay, all right. So, I will fix my typos, okay? In the meantime, what about, a motion to approve this ordinance with me fixing my typos? And then we send this back to planning commission to, come up with some very specific prohibited uses as recommended by our town attorney.
I'll make the motion that we accept ordinance 2025-10, reinstating open space with the change of the typos that were just discussed, and that we send it back to planning and zoning for very specific prohibited uses under 48.16.10.
16.48.10. 16 comes before the 48.
16.48. And we need to add the 16s to the.
Yeah, he told me, I've got it written down everything.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
I don't see a reason to do a roll call vote on that one. Okay, next item is the, live work ordinance. As I was reformatting this, and hopefully I got all the TIs, the 6s turned into TIs, I was very, very careful, I thought, and obviously this, the open space ordinance. But I tried very, very careful on this one. I had a couple of issues that didn't hit me when we were talking on Wednesday. But there are a couple of places in here, and Heath, I want your input, just like when we were talking about the DRC ordinance.
Yeah.
We were talking about who was gonna be making some decisions. There are some places in here where there was for example, if you're looking at 16.16.26, there's purpose, and then section B is procedure. One of the things that was on the ordinance that came from planning and zoning was for us to decide whether or not we wanted to make the live work a permitted use or a conditional use. And I went ahead, when I typed this up, I went ahead and put it as conditional, But the more I went through here as I was formatting this, I kind of started leaning toward making it permitted. So what are your thoughts on this?
I would start out with conditional use, see how it works with all the switch back.
Yeah, I think there's enough issues that need to be addressed when you have habitation, permanent habitation in connection with a commercial structure that it probably does need to be removed and possible conditions placed.
Okay.
I would prefer to see it a conditional.
Okay, which is the way I wrote, which is the way I did this. Okay, so we'll leave it that way for, a conditional use. And then there were a couple of things where I wasn't sure if, it should be an administrative decision versus going to planning commission. So, let me see. So this is a conditional use, we talk about procedure, it's gonna go to planning commission for approval, and yes, because it's a conditional use, it's gonna go to planning commission. Then we have eligibility, what's eligible, limitations. I think it's under, number one was modification, section E. Modifications. Says the Virgin Planning and Zoning Commission may modify a live work dwelling permit to include. We're talking about the required parking. Time limitations appropriate to the circumstances. And then in the event the unit is unoccupied due to restrictions of this chapter, planning and zoning may grant a permit holder, so we're assuming they're already holding a permit, a temporary waiver, allowing month-to-month rental of the unit to a person or family employed within 30 miles of the live work dwelling. So I did go through and I changed unit to dwelling as you had recommended, I fixed that. And then where they talked about a building, I changed that to dwelling, pursuant to your suggestions. And then I just wasn't sure about this, a temporary waiver, if that should be planning commission, or if that should be, say, the director of community development. And then,
Presently, how are conditional use permits approved?
well, conditional use permits are approved by planning commission. This is talking about a modification. So it implied, the implication is that the person already has a permit. So my only question is, if we're gonna modify it, do we send it back to planning commission, or is it something that should be able to be done administratively? Okay, just a second, I see you. That was one place.
You can have,
We can leave it this way.
well, two thoughts there. You can have a commercial use that doesn't have a conditional use permit, because it's simply a straightforward permitted use. So not all commercial structures or commercial uses will have a conditional use on it, so it's not always going to be a modification. And generally, I advise that the body which has the land use authority to create the land use entitlement in this situation, the conditional use permit, it should not be called temporary waiver, it should be a permit.
Just a modification.
Either you modify their existing conditional use permit, or you issue them an all new one, allowing for the live and work dwelling to exist in conjunction with the commercial use and structure.
So we would say, in the, were you about to say something?
No, just want to make sure I'm on the same, what section? was it?
Section E, number 3. So going back and looking at this, in the event a unit is unoccupied due to the restrictions of this chapter, the Virgin Town Planning and Zoning Commission may grant the permit holder a new permit, allowing month-to-month rental of the unit to a person.
A modification of an existing permit, or if no conditional use permit previously exists, a new one. I would say that.
Okay.
Hold that down a little bit, but
Modified permit.
Well, he is saying we need, so I see what
there's
he's
two
saying.
situations that could occur. There could be a situation where an existing commercial use and structure has a conditional use permit, and then there are other commercial uses and structures that don't need to have a conditional use permit because they're permitted. And it's very clear their use is fits within what we have designated as a permitted use within that zone. You don't have to get a
But this is for, live work, which we just decided is.
I know,
Conditional.
what I'm saying is that's always gonna be, so it's either gonna require, in instances where a property has a structure and a use already going on, which is permitted and it doesn't have a conditional use permit, it's gonna require a new conditional use permit.
Got it.
In situations where the property has a commercial structure and use on it, subject to an existing conditional use permit, you would simply modify that.
The existing permit.
Permit to allow them to.
So I have-
Either or.
Yes.
Yes, it's either or.
A new permit would be required.
So I have a modification, so may grant the permit holder a modification of a previously existing permit or a new conditional use permit.
Where none exists.
Where none exists.
None previously exists.
And so does this, let's see if was there anything else?
That's not material change, that's called.
Okay, that was a question I was gonna have for you. Now, if we look at enforcement, F1. The last sentence, the code compliance officer shall conduct, we're assuming there's complaints. Then it says the code compliance officer shall conduct investigations in response to written complaints. Now, we have the new software where everybody submits their complaints through the software. And I guess that would qualify as written complaint or because we are using software.
But we came down to if somebody tells a town council member, back when we had our enforcement discussion on
Yes.
enforcement and complaints, we said whenever the enforcement officer hears of a complaint, whether written or sees it visually, or hears about it, or non-written, he can
Do it,
enforce it.
yes.
So why are we going to written?
Okay, that was my question,
Yeah,
was, do we just take out
I would say take out the word written,
two complaints?
or we're gonna get back into the same loop.
Yes, okay. In response to complaints or at the direction of the planning and zoning commission or town council. To, that's one though, to ensure all standards of this chapter are upheld, okay?
About
Okay,
live work going permits in compliance with this ordinance shall be renewed annually. Conditional use permits are perpetual. And,
okay,
you can have the abandonment, which,
they also mentioned the permit being revoked.
well, you can revoke a perpetual conditional use permit if there's been violations of the conditions. You
Yes.
can also deem the conditional use permit, which is perpetual, to be abandoned if that use isn't used for a period of 1 year or longer. That's abandoned.
Okay,
But you're talking about an annual permit, which is,
not necessary.
we
It's
have
almost like a
annual
business
permit for
license.
STRs. But, which is not a conditional use permit, but on conditional uses, you get a conditional use permit and it runs with the land. But two, based off of state law. State law, basically, in this town and other municipalities I represent, they used to love giving out 1 year conditional use permits that are subject to review and reissuance, and our state legislature said you can't do that.
Okay, so
So my goodness,
Require a business license, we're not requiring a business, this doesn't require a
So we
business
created
license.
things that are called permits that are a lot like business licenses and stuff like that. It's a licensing thing.
so that was my question, are they trying to create a conditional use permit that runs with the land? Or are they trying to commit a permit with conditions? And if it's a permit with conditions, it's more like a short-term rental permit, hosting permit. So what was the intent?
Well, the intent is that a conditional use.
Well, I meant, what was the planning and zoning intent?
Oh,
I understand the difference between
yeah.
CUP and just a permit, like a licensing. What was the intent from the planning and zoning commission? Do you remember, Darlene, or Kent? Was it really to create a conditional use permit that runs with that land that becomes?
Permanent.
It's quite a while ago, I believe it was April 17.
I don't remember.
You changed it to be a conditional use.
No, you guys, the ordinance that came from us gave us the option, do you want it to be conditional or do you want it to be permitted? And, I wrote this as conditional. I thought it should be conditional, then later I was sitting there going, maybe it needs to be permitted. But we just discussed that it should be conditional and not start off with it being a permitted use. So the question is, when planning commission was talking about this, were you guys intending this to be permanent? That once a building is built that has this live, work, dwelling, let's say on the second floor, that, or behind, wherever it is that going to be permanent for that building? Or are you thinking more along the lines of, like, a license that has to be renewed every year?
And we can't do both.
No.
No,
What I would like to do is table this for a month.
okay,
And
talk
talk,
about it.
because he raises the good, and also look at it and think about the implications of both systems, which one would be the best, a permit system versus CUP, and kind of see what other communities have done.
Maybe we call it a live work license, if you want, because permit starts to give the connotation of conditional use.
Right.
But a live work license, if we're gonna do it on an annual renewal basis, but for me, I'm thinking about it, if it's a conditional use, the ability for someone to permanently habitate either inside of or directly adjacent to a commercial structure and use, there are some things that need to be reviewed and some conditions oftentimes put on it. Things such as the habitation area, parking, where is the parking for that? Things like, what is the type of use that if the habitation is above, are you going to allow someone to have a welding business where they use acetylene torches and things like that directly above habitation? So like that, you're gonna want to look at each situation on a case by case basis. There's going to be things like trash and those types of things that oftentimes need to be reviewed by like a planning commission, and there needs to be permanent standing conditions, in my opinion, placed on that permit. And once those standing conditions are placed on it in the form of a conditional use permit or a modification to an existing permit, then it runs with the building and you can have that habitation area, that dwelling inside or adjacent to the commercial structure and use.
So, you think 1 month is enough?
Yeah, just 1 month to think through,
Okay.
through the implications of those. and
So the
then-
question is, if we make these changes like we're talking about, does this sounds like this is more than just some clarification and it's gonna have to go back to planning commission. if We make these changes, okay?
Yeah.
That's why I was just wondering,
Right now-
but we can bring it back in a month
Yeah,
and then we may.
We may end up referring it back to planning. It's a good concept. I love it. Because you see them more and more across the US in the communities. But I want to make sure we do it right in the process when we think through all the issues.
And I'll say this to the planning commissioners who are here, Valerie's question, I think is valid. You may be able to require a conditional use permit or modification of one and have
Right.
an
Business license.
Right.
Okay,
which is annually renewed and looked at for compliance with those conditions a little bit.
and that would need to be in here.
Yeah, there's her questions, could we have both?
Yeah.
Technically, we talked about it.
And that's the concept I was thinking, to do the CUP that permits that
And then you
use.
have to live where
But then you have the licensing and make sure you keep up with everything and keep with the rental aspect and some of the others. So I move that we table this for 1 month, for the next regular meeting.
I second. All in favor? Yes. Okay, all right. So let's see. So the next ordinance is the DRC ordinance that we discussed on Wednesday. And I, added he's such a, oh, that didn't come out, right? I have to fix that. It should not, there should have been some of this on that previous page. Should be all that blank. So after, you can see that after the words after amendment on the 3rd page, I've underlined everything we added.
One question?
Yeah.
BMC.
Oh, that's Virgin Municipal Code, but we can change that to say Virgin Town Code. Because the code now, and I've been wondering what to call it, because now the town code, now that it's in one big document. And the land use is just Title 16, and now we just have one big code, and it's not, we have Google separate from the municipal code. It's just one big code. Do we call it Virgin Town Code? Do we call it Virgin Municipal Code? What do we call this?
Virgin Municipal Code.
I think when it was adopted, if I look at it, very good. It is referred to. As
Virgin Town Code. We can write that out. Yeah, I will.
That's all
Yeah, I will,
and then
regulations.
BMC and what, 200 and some more citizens?
Say what?
We're gonna get to the point that we're no longer a town.
Oh, I know we are. So, oh, I see. So you're.
I would love to start using Virgin
Municipal code. So what do we need to do in order to be able to call it municipal code? Then we never have to change it after we move to a city.
Start.
But you said there was some sort of adoption. Language, so we would have to change that. And this is, if we're looking online, we see this where?
Under the very top above, Title II, Code of Ordinances of Virginia. Town. And, it says, this code constitutes republication of the general permanent ordinances of the town of Virginia, Utah. Source materials for republication of the town code as updated, and it continues to clear. I would much rather see us refer to it as the municipal code, so we don't turn around and change the references. It will become a city of the fifth class.
Okay, so you said this was right above,
We could create a Title I, you don't have it.
we
Starts
don't
off
have
with
a title,
II.
it starts off with two.
So we could create a new Title I that says that this is
The ordinance,
the municipal code of the town of Virgin.
So this is, I see, this is the preface to the republication, where it says this code constitutes a republication of the.
source
town
materials used in preparation for the town.
For the town code, okay. So,
That's where I initially said, but it's not really clear in ordinance, so that's not say that from here forward, it should be referred to as the Virgin Town Code
version
or the Virgin Municipal Code.
Would you like me to create a Title I?
Yes.
Yeah, please do Title One.
Okay.
I'll do Title I.
Title one, is that-
Title One, Chapter One, Section Two.
okay, we can vote on that next month, and then I'll go ahead and change this to say Virgin, we'll leave it. Virgin Municipal Code, but I will write out the words instead of listing, leaving them as
I'll
initials.
leave that ordinance, say Virgin Municipal Code or abbreviated as VMC. That way we can start using that consistently in our ordinance going forward.
You good with that? Okay,
Didn't want more work. I got buggered up with code, but I'll do it.
this won't take,
That would take 5 minutes.
yes, because it won't take long.
That's a boring Sunday afternoon.
Okay, so,
So I'm watching a baseball.
okay, so, under the after amendment, I put, I underlined the words, they were underlined in the previous version from the planning commission, and I just added, we decided to add the words as determined by the director of community development. And I added those words. And, that was
It's great.
that was our only change. And we talked about, I did not put this in here, but we talked about the town council would be able to appeal if we disagree with a determination, but I figured that we didn't need to say that because we can appeal. So I didn't see a need to say we can appeal, and we already know we can appeal. Okay. So, this one is ready to go, we just need to spell out, the initials DRC and BMC. Otherwise, this one's ready to go. Any disagreements with it? No. Okay. Well, one of you three needs to make a motion.
Yeah, my only
This
comment, okay. Well, I was gonna say, my only comment is, I know you like to use the before amendment, after amendment, where you do that.
Mhm.
It's taken me a while to kind of get used to that.
Well, the reason, okay, the
But
reason,
it's all right.
well, the reason I do it is, well, number one, I've seen, the thing he was talking about how to properly do an ordinance, they had it before and after, but if you look at our code and the way there's all the ordinances that have not yet been codified, and people look at it, you can't tell what's been, you would have to go over here and compare to see exactly what changed, and if I had before and after, it can be clear to anyone.
No, I understand why we do it.
Okay.
I've just been doing this looking at these for bills and this for all my life now. And I'm used to the bill drafting method.
Yeah.
And it takes me a minute to figure out what we do. It's my personal
Okay,
issue. It's not
This
anybody else's.
format that you're using, there are pluses and negatives to it. Yeah, generally, I don't see it, with a lot of municipalities. Now, for the federal government, and you're going to be making an amendment to the code of federal regulations, yes, they don't have before and after. And body text, red line,
We don't have to do it.
Oh, no, it's all right,
I see the reason, he just needs, both of us just need to,
Adjust.
it needs to adjust.
as I'm reading it first time, I think, this didn't change a thing. Oh, this was before.
But you won't see that on anything I draft.
Okay, well, I take your stuff, and I format
You
it.
formatted
I
it.
reformat it.
If you wanna spend the time reformatting it, it's up to you.
Well, I think that the lines can be helpful down the road when.
Well, I will say, I looked up an ordinance the other day, it hadn't been codified yet,
Right.
and I went to go look at it, and I went, oh, thank goodness it's got before and after. And I was like, okay, because otherwise it's gonna have to go over to the code and look for it. Yes,
Is it acceptable to bold before?
yeah, I can do that, I can do that, yeah. There's no reason not to,
Or Palestine.
or highlight it in some way, yeah, make it more prominent. Okay, motion. On number 12, and then we got number 13, and then we can do our close meeting.
Okay, I'll make the motion to accept ordinance 2025-12, uses subject to ERC review.
I'll second. All in favor? Yes. Okay, so then number 13 should be fairly straightforward. There were, let's see, did we make any changes? I made one change here. This is just removing complaints from the land use code, Title 16, Chapter 2. And if you go to page 1, 2, 3, 4, under after repeal and renumber, section A, enforcement, and then A. This paragraph will remain in the land use code, and the stuff I underlined as outlined in Title 2, Chapter. And I looked at it and I figured we would create a new chapter called 2.05 of complaint procedure, and I have to be created. Because we're saying where to go now, if you want to see what the complaint procedure is. Because we talked about the fact that we're gonna come up with a new complaint procedure, and it's gonna be in the administrative section of our code, not the land use code. And we talked about whether it was going to be in Title 3 or Title 2 or 3. And I sat and looked at the code, and I said, I think it goes to Chapter 2, Title 2, not Title 3. And so, we have a title, there's Chapter 2.02, Chapter 2.03, 204, and so, and then it goes to like 208 or something
Goes
like
to
that.
212, and we have normally skipped and used even.
Even numbers, which I.
So we have an 04, I would suggest that we
Make this 06, okay?
Instead of saying that's outlined in Title 2, Chapter 2.04.
206.
Or 2.06, why don't we just say as provided in this code, because that way if you're changing the numbers, then you don't have to go back and review it.
Okay, what do you think? Yeah.
I would maybe not, I would say as contained in Title 2.
And that's all right too.
That's
Yeah.
right, okay. As contained in Title 2 and delete the rest of what I wrote there.
Yeah, that way we're not redoing it every time.
And that's the proper place to have.
Okay.
complaint Procedure.
Yeah, I thought Title 2 was the right
Yes.
place, I just was going to give it a number, but we can leave that out. Okay, and then you can see that, continuing on the same page, that section B is completely deleted. And then C, D, and E stay in the code, but they are renumbered B, C, and D, or relettered B, C, and D. So what we did is we took out section B, which was the complaints, and then we moved everything else.
I
So
move,
it's pretty
Just
straightforward.
changing 5 to 6.
Yep, or we're gonna actually deleting those words. Chapter 2.06 of the complaint procedure. Just gonna say as pertained to Title 2. Okay.
I move for approval of ordinance, 2025-13 with a change to, section 16.2.22, eliminating the language outlined in Title 2, Chapter 2.05, comma, complaint procedure, occurrence to be graded parens, and adding as contained in Title 2.
You don't have to add, as pertaining to Title 2, if it's already in there.
So, no, it's, you have to change the
We
word
have to,
outline.
create a new ordinance. with-
Oh, okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes, aye. Okay. So the, I wanted to go into the closed meeting at this point in time, but, I don't see that, Michelle and her attorney are here yet.
You want to outside?
They might be outside. Yeah. If you would, please.
So we're going in the closed meeting and they're gonna participate in the closed meeting,
We can invite me to the executive session.
but we're going in for what reason?
We've got 2 reasons on here.
Yeah, well, no, one of the reasons, I mean, we're dealing with acquisition, and the purpose behind it is not to give anybody else.
Yeah, we don't want to be talking about terms and stuff publicly in case someone else wanted to mimic the town's terms or better than our
Okay.
terms.
I just want to make sure why we're doing it. I can buy that.
Jean, that, really put the one code on there.
Well, I'm gonna read it. You put one code. And you combine 2 different codes there. 52-4-2051 M. You put that on there. You did not put
Right,
1D.
we did, because we just found out, we were going into it this morning.
Oh. Did you not amend the agenda like I asked you to?
Not in the morning, not this morning, it's less than the bird, I can't look at it.
Okay. Got it. Okay, and it's fine anyway.
So we just have to.
It's fine
State
anyway.
it, yeah, that's why it's not on there.
Okay, it's fine.
Property is.
Okay, so, even though I had on the agenda for us to,
I wasn't wrong.
yeah. I had on the agenda for us to discuss this, your resolution, your 2 resolutions about amending the capital improvement program. I was just gonna have us discuss this only, since we're gonna have a public hearing next month.
We could discuss that at work session.
Okay, that's what I wanted, that's what Crystal and I were thinking, but I wanted to let you know before I just did that,
Yeah.
because it was your thing. Okay, so before going into the closed meeting, the discussion item on page 2 of the agenda, the discussion item is not action items, that we weren't gonna be voting on this. We are going to continue this to discussions about capital improvements program to the, work meeting, our next work. So we won't be discussing that tonight. That's it.
Doesn't have a parallel reading this morning.
That one does,
Yeah.
okay, you just saw that just now? Okay, we can take a break, let's, okay, before we do anything, let's close the meeting and to go to the closed meeting and take a break on the public. Okay. So I need a motion to close the meeting, and there's going to be 2 topics. It's 52-4-205, that's written here. And then also this one from last work meeting. The very first one, the first 2 on that list. This is from our work meeting the other day. We're gonna have this And this, there are two pieces. Yeah, that's yours.
I move that we close the public meeting and open the closed meeting, and it will be held at 114 South Mill Street for the Utah and Old Church, and will be pursuant to
I will,
52-4-205-1-1, to discuss the purchase, exchange, and lease of real property. And the second reason is 52-4-205, M as in Mike. So, M, for deliberations, consuming evaluation under the Utah code.
Well, we can clarify on the first citation, it should be, paren one, paren D.
D, what did I say?
one.
One dash one dash one.
Oh, did I really?
You did.
Oh, sorry, 52-4-205, parens, D, parens. I was probably jumping around, in my mind. Thank you. Any questions? Do you need a
Nope.
second?
I'll second.
And I will do a roll call vote. I will start with Valerie.
Yes.
And Jean, yes. Paul.
Aye.
And April.
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, so you are stopping the recording there of that meeting? And then you're going to, did you send a Zoom link